You're listening to The Roots, a podcast from Minnesota AMA District 23 ARMCA. I'm your host, Jackie Reese. Let's dive deeper into what makes our district so great. This podcast was prepared by an independent contractor and may not be the views of the Board of Directors of District 23 ARMCA or any of their sponsors or affiliates. Welcome, everybody, to episode 14 of The Roots with Joe Perron. Joe, how has 2021 been for you?
Good and bad, for sure.
Share a little bit about the highs and the lows that you've had so far this season.
It started off good, not riding as much as I would like to, but I was back on the bike from about a year and a half off of concussions and dealing with headaches and some stuff that I need to take care of, obviously. So I came back this year with plans to do Millville, Pro National, maybe a few others, and was doing good, prepared for that, and came into Millville actually. And second qualifier crashed again and hit my head again, got another concussion, and I haven't rode a bike since. So it's been just over 2 months. Wow. Yeah. Concussions are nothing to mess around with, really.
If you don't mind sharing, I know a lot of people that have dealt with serious concussions like this. What has it been like for you?
Yeah. So I've been fortunate to have a lot of concussions in my career of racing. It's obviously a joke, but it's been tough on me. So early on in my racing career, I'd have a concussion. It wasn't a lot, but every couple of years, and never really had any side effects. You take a month off, get right, come back to it, and never have a problem. And then February of 2019, I was at Dallas Supercross, and I was in qualifying as well. And there's a rhythm lane that I was doing. I did it 2 laps prior, and it was a little bit tricky, I guess, for my skill level. And I was going for a fast lap, and came through on-off section and misjudged a little bit, came up short and went over the bars and basically whiplashed to the back of my head. And as far as I wasn't knocked out and it wasn't like a terrible concussion as far as that goes, my memory is foggy for like a half hour and that was it. But then, dog. And then, but ever since that crash, it was the whole ride home. The next week it was basically migraines. I compare it to, not that people should know what a hangover is, but every morning it was like stage 8 to 10 hangover, just foggy, groggy, didn't want to get out of bed. And so I was in a bad place for probably 6 months from that one. And like I said, I took about a year and a half off from riding at that point. Now that's the first time I've been injured plenty as far as knees and broken bones. But that was the longest I've ever been off a bike since I started racing when I was 11 years old. So it challenged me in a lot of ways, obviously mentally, because it's your brain. But came back, started riding again, and was really enjoying it until this Millville when I crashed and got a concussion again. And now I'm actually seeing a doctor once a week. I'm dealing with headaches again. I don't have like the other side effects, but I have a headache basically every day since the crash.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds.
So I'm hard on myself.
Yeah, no kidding. It sounds like something that you wouldn't want to deal with, of course. But you mentioned that year and a half off the bike was the first time since you started riding, like the longest that you had been off the bike. How did you get into motorcycling, and how did you get into motocross more specifically?
So it goes back. I want to say I was 9 years old when I started just on a TTR 90, and it was my older brother who he got into riding. Actually, I believe he got into it because of Joe Mueller, which a lot of us know who he is on the track. He's a realtor, obviously, and had a sponsor this year of mine, Move Group. They were close buddies, and he was always coming over with bikes. And then my dad got my brother a bike, which then obviously I wanted one, follow suit, older brother. And I started at TTR 90, and I just tooled around town and in my dad's backyard. He had a 10-acre hobby farm. And basically what got me into racing was, so it's about 2 years later, Zack Williams, which a lot of people who watch us know who he is, obviously. We're next door neighbors, or he moved in when I was 10 years old, 10 or 11. And he raced at the time. And so we became obviously buds instantly. But he's the one that got, because I was a little girl when I shouldn't say girl, but I was afraid when I was little to race. I didn't want to race. And Zach basically forced me to do it. It's like, come on, you got to try it. And first race is actually in Elko, because I live in Elko, back when I had that track. And ever since then, I've been hooked.
Wow. Was there anyone that you really looked up to growing up? I know Zach was your friend, but maybe an older rider, or maybe it was Zach.
So he's actually younger than me, but it goes back to Joe Mueller again. It's funny because back when I was little, when I first got into racing, obviously he was always around. And look, he's older than me. He's hanging on my brother, and he was very good then. And as I grew up and got into racing, he came to A class, and he was kind of top local guy, and he raced a few pro nationals actually, and I always looked up to Joe as far as locally goes.
Nice. That's cool to hear that you got to look up to him and now he gets to give back to you. That seems like a very special connection for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of full circle. It's pretty cool in there. Got a good relationship still, and his track is 15 minutes from my house, so I ride there quite a bit. It's all good and fun. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So in my eyes, you've had a pretty successful career, both amateur and pro ranks. What were some of the highlights in your eyes?
Yeah, well, I mean, looking back now, and obviously the older I get and more injuries I have, I kind of back down a little bit. I don't ride and race as much as I used to, and I probably won't going forward, but I'll still be around. And like you said, 30 plus is coming soon for me, 1 year away actually. But I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. What'd you ask me again?
What were some of the highlights of your career?
I would definitely say, so amateur-wise, I went to Loretta's 3 times. It was 3 years in a row in A class. I actually never had any success there. Broke my collarbone shoulder last year I was there, but I really enjoyed that. It was a good learning experience. That was like one of the highlights as far as enjoyment goes. You know, the results weren't what I wanted, but that happens. But professionally-wise, basically everything I did professional, it wasn't just the racing, it was the traveling. Good buddies, we pack in a van 6 deep, 5 deep in a van, split fuel, split everything, try to do it cheap, travel the country, Daytona, you name it. The racing side of it, I mean, if I qualified, I was happy. My goals weren't set super high. I've always been a working man, never pursued the racing thing full time. So I was realistic. And like you said, I mean, looking back now, I'm hard on myself, but I also did more than I ever thought I would. So I was really happy with that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I'd do it all over again, but not in my head.
Yeah, no kidding. You mentioned traveling the country with your friends. Which year of doing that whole traveling together, going to all the races was the most fun for you?
I would say 2017, because that was my most successful year. I want to say we went to 7 or 8 supercrosses, and I qualified for all but 1. And then we did 4 or 5 outdoors. And I think I made all the outdoor nationals that year too. So it was my most successful year. So it's probably the one that I remember the most, but it was also the most time we spent on the road. So, I mean, it was all of us were still working. So you'd work Monday to Thursday, maybe even Friday, drive through the night, race Supercross Saturday, and then finish Supercross 10 o'clock at night Saturday, drive back through the night to get home late Sunday to work Monday. We did it all year round to the, 8 Supercrosses and 4 outdoors. And it was just obviously tiring, but completely worth it and a lot of fun. I tell the girlfriend she'd rather fly than drive. I'm like, 80% of the memories we have are on the road. It's travel, hanging with your buddies and goofing off a bit.
Yeah, right. You got to find things to pass the time. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
On the road. So you mentioned all those races that you qualified for. Of those, or maybe of a different year, which race are you the most proud of during your career?
So I would actually say it's the most recent. It was Millville last year. So 2020 Millville. So September, it was 60 degrees, cool Millville. But it's coming off of the year and a half of, I guess, the lowest of lows in my life as far as injuries, and just obviously because dirt bike's a part of my life, and without it, you know how we get us motocrossers. But I came back from that and decided I was going to try Millville again, and I qualified 24th. I wasn't really in shape that year, so the moto doesn't go good by any means, but best qualifying I ever had, and that one meant more to me than anything. Just that was because I wasn't sure I'd come back and try again. So that one was one I won't forget.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned also that you achieved more than you thought you ever would have. What do you think would have been necessary to take you to that next level in your pro career? So obviously money never hurts anybody when you go in racing, but maybe, you had more time off work or the ability to do that, or more people around you to help you. What do you think could have helped you get to that next level?
I was fortunate with obviously the small time I had to make what I did happen. I had a lot of people in my corner, a lot of sponsors that helped out, I guess, even more than I thought they would. And I obviously appreciated it. So I was fortunate there. And like I said, we did it as cheap as possible as far as the travel goes, and split everything up, and a bunch of buddies go. And that helped a lot so we can make it happen. But yeah, I guess the biggest thing for me would be if I had that opportunity to do it full time, not have to work, I guess, not a full-time job, or just fully commit to motocross. I'll be the first to admit, and most people that know me close, I like to enjoy myself. when I'm gate drops, I try my best, but maybe not the most in shape guy out there by any means, but I always gave it 100% when I was there. And so I probably could have put a little more effort, even though I was working so much, to be in a little better shape, which could have, turned to a little bit more success. But by the time I was 24, 25, I knew obviously it's just at this point a hobby and a passion. You got to still grow up and figure my life out.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that shows people, kids coming up, that you can do this at the level that you did this at, and you don't have to go pro and do this as a full-time job and still have all the memories and all the great success and feel good about a career like that.
Oh, 100%. And I did it cheap enough where there's a few years I came money ahead. I'm not saying I was paying the bills by any means, but I wasn't losing money. I've probably 3-4 of those years, which in the grand scheme of things, if you can not spend money doing the sport, you're doing something right.
Yeah,
tough to do.
Absolutely, right? Like you're getting paid to go ride your dirt bike. Like that, I feel like that's everybody's dream, right? Just
Absolutely.
To even break even is incredible. So like I said before, I've seen your career as a success in my eyes, and something to be proud of for sure.
Well, I appreciate that, and I need to hear it every now and again to remember that, because sometimes I'm pretty hard on myself.
Yeah, well,
Which
also,
getting bad.
I feel like most successful people are pretty hard on themselves, right? Like that's how you keep pushing yourself to go harder and bigger and higher. And it's important to look back and be like, yeah, that was really cool and that was really great. So yeah.
I'd absolutely agree with that. And I was able to do all that and keep it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So changing gears a little bit, you volunteer with District 23 ARMCA as a class rep for quite a handful of our vet classes in motocross. Why did you want to get involved with D23 in the first place?
For starters, obviously I love the sport, and it's good to see it doing so good right now. Obviously, COVID did us a favor. I'm not, like you said, obviously I'm on the board, and I'm not super involved yet. I need to be more. Obviously, time's of the essence, and I got to make more time. But I'm the younger generation, if you will. I'm not saying there's old people in there, but there is. And someday it's going to change over. And like yourself, you're on board as well. We got to keep the sport growing and going, especially in our community in the state, which I'm into. I'm invested for life one way or another, whether I'm racing or not.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I saw one of your more recent posts, you mentioned that you wanted to be more involved in the future. What kind of things would you like to be involved with in local motocross racing?
I probably will never advertise it, but if someone were to come up and ask me, which I would want, any little kid or parents get a hold of me if I want pointers or help. I'm not looking at for to make money or make a living at it, but I can give someone advice or some experience or anything, I'm more than willing to do so.
Awesome.
Because like I said, whether I'm racing or not, I'm gonna be at the track. Not every weekend, but I'll be there.
That's cool. That's good to hear that you want to stick around in it, even though you might not be riding as much as you used to.
Absolutely. But I say that now because I have headaches. Give it next spring. We'll see if that changes.
Right. You'll be back on the bike in no time.
Yeah, exactly.
So we had a couple listener questions for you. The first one is the easier of the two, so we'll start there. What gear do you hit the Camelback and the uphill triple at Millville on a 450?
I'm gonna go ahead and guess third, but to be honest with you, I never know what gear I'm in. I don't keep track.
Yeah,
I know I'm in second gear on the gate, and after that, I'm not paying attention. That's the honest truth. I would guess third.
Awesome. And the second, if there was one thing you wish you'd done differently, what would it be?
One thing I wish I'd done differently. I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is crash less. That's probably everybody's wish, but
yeah. How do you really do that?
Great. Maybe back it down a bit and not go so hard, but it goes when the gate drops. You want to win.
Yeah, right. And if you had that mentality, you might not have been as successful as you were. So
absolutely.
It's a level game here. And I guess my last question for you as we round out this podcast, summer's coming to a close. We just have a couple weekends left of racing here in Minnesota. What advice do you have for other riders that are wrapping up their season, whether it was good or bad, or they made it to Loretta's and they did bad or they did good? Like what kind of advice do you have for other riders here in Minnesota?
My biggest advice, which I try to tell myself through all the years, is enjoy it. My dad was never hard on me, which I encourage that too. If your dad out there listening, just let them enjoy it. If they're good and they're gonna be good, they will become good. You pushing them or yelling at them is not gonna solve any problems. If you ask me, that's my opinion. Mm-hmm. My dad always preached have fun and try your best. And as long as I was trying, he was supporting. I feel like that got me to where I am today.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Joe. It's been a pleasure.
Yep, anytime.
Thank you, everybody else, for tuning in. We will see you in 2 Mondays for episode 15 of The Roots. Thanks for joining us. Catch us every other Monday wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on our YouTube page.